Now coming the other way, here's Tom Wilson. Wilson in on a break. Andersen with the save. Oh, Mr. Andersen tested early, 30 seconds in, and comes up with an A+ save. Chance for Walker. Now to come back. Martinook trying to get his stick. Wilson's on it. They're going to let everybody play on. Slavin gets it to Staal. Works his way through. A save by Thompson. Sprawling save. Puck still free. Gaines will kick it back to the point. Slavin with it. Around the boards it goes. Kept in by Walker. Walker's drive will be caught and hung on to by Thompson. And now Carrier is going to have a little stick slashing session with Chychrun. Well, now there's 7:29 left here in the second. The Canes have been aggressive in this game. Now Svechnikov comes in off the draw, and he scores! Off the face-off! Carolina strikes first. It's 1-0 Hurricanes.
I just now got my hearing back. Just now from that goal, got my hearing back. Hi, everyone. It's the Canes Corner Podcast. What is going on with you? I know what's going on here. They're getting ready to go to Pearl Jam tomorrow. Pearl Jam tomorrow. Hurricanes hockey on Monday. Pearl Jam on Tuesday. So there's a lot of roadies. Roadies getting overtime here over the next several days. Hi, everyone. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. You should check him out for all of your home exterior improvement needs. Boy, what a finish to this one. And what I mean by that is it was really two different games. There was a first 30 minutes, and then there was a next 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes and the next 30 minutes did not resemble one another at all. Because the first 30 minutes, Washington was probably the better team. Stop me if you've heard this before. Man, we probably should have had a goal or two. But they didn't. Thank you, Frederik Andersen. And the last 30 minutes, woo, that was a beating. The last 30 minutes. The Hurricanes finally got to their game, second half of the second period, and then dominated the third. Remember, talked about it with Mike Solarte, my friend from Spectrum in Charlotte, about, and it was he who brought it up, and you start the third, 2-0, all gas. No let up, no sit back, absorb Washington's push back first. It was a thorough beating in the third period. Now, a lot of that was probably the Eric Robinson goal, which I'm sure deflated the Capitals immediately because that happened so soon, so early in the period. The Hurricanes were not great for the first 30 minutes. They just weren't. But, boy, when they got to it, they got to it. Let me run down the scoring real quick, and then we'll get to all the things we're going to talk about. Because there obviously were a lot. Before we do that, we'll say hello. Svechnikov, unassisted, right off the faceoff. Aho lost the faceoff clean. Svechnikov wanted for him. At 12:34 of the period, Roslovic power play goal with 1:03 left in the second from Burns and Taylor Hall. Robinson, 3:14 into the third. Oh, holy cow, what a goal. From Stankoven and Roslovic, who had a 2-point night. And then Jackson Lake on the power play from Gostis, Bear, and Jarvis with about 3 1/4 left. But at that point, the Capitals were already into runaround whiny mode, and the Hurricanes have a 4-0 win. All right, before we go through this, shouts to Brodeur Girl on I-40 in the car. Don't know where they're headed. We are international, as you know we always are. Dusseldorf, Germany, checking in. Moldova, checking in. Cali-Caniacs, that's not international. Although I've heard that California is the world's 4th largest economy. Antelope, California. Perth, Australia. McLeansville. Leland, North Carolina. Dinwiddie, Virginia. Portland, Maine. The better of the two Portlands, if you ask me. Shaw Air Force Base Fire Department. Virginia Beach, Fredericksburg, Virginia. Elm City, North Carolina. Montreal, Alliston, Ontario, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, although Fort Campbell, Kentucky was in the building tonight, and Yokosuka, Japan. I told you, man, we are everywhere. All right, let's get right to proceedings tonight. I always try to make a list of the things that I want to talk about. We're going to start. We're actually not even going to start with the first star. We're going to start with the second star because all year long, from the beginning of the season all the way through game 82, you've heard me say it before. I talked to Rod Brindamore before every game. I think I missed like 7 games this year. I talked to him before every game. And I can't tell you, it has to be 60 times this year. I asked him about figuring out ways to get Andrei Svechnikov going. Apparently, we just should have started the playoffs sooner. Because tonight, that goal is why this organization has had so much faith in Andrei. It was a big boy, big moment, big play goal. So, not to backtrack, because I do want to mention why that goal happened. But all year long, we've been wondering, where is this? Why isn't he shooting the puck? Why is he being too fancy? You know what we don't see in the playoffs? We have not seen Andrei, for the most part. I mean, he's tried to make some passes that maybe weren't there. But for the most part, we have seen Andrei lower his shoulder, get to the net, be a pest. Apparently, he snuck in a couple of slashes on Tom Wilson tonight. So sad. So sorry. But what we saw was power forward Andrei. The goal, great. But 3 shots, 6 attempts, 5 hits, a problem for Washington all night long. That's what Andrei Svechnikov was. First goal of the series, 6th goal of the playoffs. That leads Carolina. Just another great performance from Andrei Svechnikov. And we have, honestly, whether it's this podcast or the Day Job radio show, we have talked about the missing person that was Andrei Svechnikov all year long. And he said, I remember talking to him right before the end of the season, that he was just, at that point, he was just looking ahead of the playoffs. And then once the playoffs began, he said, this is my time. We've been watching the Dallas series, and you see what Mikko Rantanen's doing. In the Dallas-Colorado series, so what Nathan McKinnon's doing. We haven't even seen Connor McDavid do those things yet. And I'm not trying to put Andrei in that category because he's not. Even at his best, he's not in that category. But there's only a handful of those guys on earth. And Andrei can be in that next category if he's playing the right way. And what we're seeing here is Andrei playing the right way. I want to go back, forget about the goal. The move he made for his 3rd post of the series, he skates the puck in with speed, coming right through the neutral zone. Sebastian Aho is to his right and ahead of him. And you thought, well, maybe Andrei's going to pass the puck up to Aho. I think he waved to Sebastian as he went by. And I thought, well, maybe he's going to drop it to Aho. Nope. He just lowered his shoulder and from a very sharp angle, put a backhand shot just off, like it hit the post flush. If it's 1 inch further to the right, it goes off the post and in. 1 inch. That's all it is. Because it came like straight out, I believe, straight out up the middle of the ice. Maybe it was a little bit to the right, but an inch further, I think that puck goes in the net. It was an incredible move, and it showed that Andrei is in shoot the puck mode. And that's what we need Andrei to be in. Because once you do that, Trip Tracy used to say it all the time, Teuvo Teravainen, once he establishes the shot, he becomes super dangerous. Once Andrei establishes that I am a shooter first, it opens up the whole game. So, but he's been really good in all three zones. He's been super physical, and that is the power forward that the Carolina Hurricanes have been looking for. That's, again, not comparing, and I'm not saying he's even close to as good. That's why they traded for Mikko Rantanen. Imagine having two of those guys. Yeah. Then you might look like Edmonton. So the Andrei game was great. Now let's get to why the Andrei goal happened. And this happened in two phases. The first phase is getting to the middle of the period, of the second period. And something I talked about with Trip Tracy before the game was on home ice, Rod has the luxury of putting William Carrier with Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook. Now, things had been going well. They played two good games. Rod didn't want to change anything. But I knew that if he didn't like what he saw, and there was no reason to really like what you saw through 30 minutes, I knew Rod would change. Jackson Blake has been not the same Jackson Blake we saw during the regular season. Understandable. 21-year-old rookie. It was going to be tougher, especially against the way a team the way Washington wants to play. So it was going to be a little bit more difficult for Jackson Blake. So you take him out of a situation where he's playing on a top line, which is being targeted by Washington's biggest, strongest defensive group, right? So you get him away from that. This is not about, Jackson Blake isn't good enough. He's plenty good. But it was time to put Carrier back with Staal and Martinook, to put Jarvis back with Aho and Svechnikov. And Rod makes those changes. He left the Roslovic, Hall, Stankoven line together. He put Blake with Kotkaniemi and Robinson, which is a line that should score. That is a line that should, on home ice, that line should score. And we have the reconfigured other two lines. The two lines that Rod relies on. Aho, Svechnikov, and now Jarvis, Carrier with Martinook and Staal. So the Carrier, Martinook, Staal line is on the ice, and they have the shift, I believe, that changed the game. And I wrote this down. What a shift by the captain's line. Martinook's hit on Wilson plus two good scoring chances. They were probably on the ice for about, I don't know, maybe a minute. And the second scoring chance got a face-off in the offensive zone. And on comes Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis. Aho loses the draw. Wasn't great in the face-off circle tonight, nor was Jordan Staal. Roslovic was 9 out of 10. Amazing. But Andrei, whether he anticipated a loss or not, I assume he did, because from the right side of the circle, he comes crashing in. Remember, this is a clean face-off loss. Andrei grabs the puck, goes in between defenders and around Jacob Chikrin. No, it was John Carlson. And Andrei goes short side, blocker, high, boom. And you could not hear. But that shift, that face-off loss, that face-off is made possible because A, Rod changed his lines. B, that line got to work. And I want to go through what those lines did. And for the sake of argument, I'm just going to use Natural Stat Tricks Corsi numbers because it does tell us about possession of the puck. For the first 30 minutes, Carolina didn't have possession. They were losing the possession battle. They never lose possession. The first 30 minutes, they were losing it. The only line that wasn't was Roslovic, Stankoven, and Taylor Hall. And I thought that line was okay. I didn't think it was amazing. I thought Stankoven was the best player on that line tonight. But the other three lines were not really winning their possession battles. Staal, Carrier, Martinook, 12-3 at 5-on-5, 12-3 possession, Corsi 4, right? Shot attempts, shots allowed. Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, 9-1. Where's the Robinson, Kotkaniemi, Blake, 8-4. So in the last 30 minutes, Carolina won all of the possession battles. In the first 30 minutes, they were losing most of them. Again, very rudimentary, but it was also about scoring chances created, and Carolina was so much better than Washington the last 30 minutes of the game. So you had the big boy goal, you had the captain's line, and that shift, which was preceded by Rod flipping around his lines. Once Carolina got those combinations sorted out, they absolutely kicked Washington's ass all over the ice. Couple of more things, and I want to get to some interesting numbers for me. We go into every series knowing that as long as you don't lose the special teams battle, you've got a chance, a real chance to win a series. Whether you're the favored team or not, you've got a real chance to win a series as long as you don't lose the special teams battle. And Carolina at 5-on-5 historically has been an excellent team. Hasn't been as good this year, to be honest. Hey, maybe that is because Andrei hasn't been Andrei. But in this series, through two games, the special teams battle has been even. 1-1. Tonight, Carolina turned the special teams battle on its ear. And I know everybody's tired of hearing, well, Carolina doesn't have a good power play in the postseason. I get it. That's not incorrect. It's certainly more correct than this bogus BS the Hurricanes can't win on the road in the postseason. Under Rod Brindamore, they showed it. 14-25. Take away the 6 from the 0-for-6 during the 22 playoffs. And I realize I hate to be Jeff Bezdelik here. Take away that 0-for-6, 14-19 on the road in the playoffs. That just isn't bad. Now, because I keep saying this and I haven't done the research yet, I'd be curious what other teams' road records are like in the playoffs. Granted, teams that go far in the playoffs generally have great road records. But I think for the most part, most teams don't win half of their road games in the playoffs. Not even in the NHL, where road teams win routinely. I'd be curious to see what other teams do. So I'll go back and I'll do it. I'll do that research and we'll come with some comparison. But even 14-25 ain't terrible. I don't see anybody complaining about other teams on the road, but I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, my little points of contention with the way this team can be covered at times. So road record, we can throw that out the door. Of course, this was a home game, Carolina. Why don't we just talk about how ridiculously good the Hurricanes are on home ice? Because it is kind of goofy, right? What is it, 4-for-4 now? Yeah, they were 3-0 against the Devils and now 1-0 against the Capitals. The penalty kill is now 21 out of 22. This postseason, 21 out of 22. They were 1-for-5 or 4-for-5 before tonight. They are now 6 out of 7 against Washington. They were 15-for-15 against the Devils, and the power play goes 2-for-2. They have now scored on 3 consecutive power plays dating back to the Gostisbehere goal. But this team is now 9 out of 27 in the playoffs. That is 33%. I've said this all along. You don't need a great power play. You just need some power play goals here and there. The Canes have 9 of them in 8 games of the playoffs, and they are at 33%. Anything around 20%, 18%, you can live with that, especially if your penalty kill is doing what Carolina's is, 21 out of 22. And, Washington's power play is pretty good, and they shut it down tonight. 3 for 8 in the series on the power play for Carolina, and again, 6 out of 7 on the penalty kill. Goaltender was good. So I was asked, I went on with the fourth period. For those hockey fans, you probably know who the fourth period is. Dave Pagnotta, Dennis Bernstein, and crew. They do a show on Sirius Saturday afternoon. So it's mid-morning wrapped around. It's 11 to 1. And they bring me on from time to time to talk about the Canes. And so I was on with them today. They asked me about Freddie Andersen. How do the fans feel about the 1-year contract extension? And I said, well, Andersen can be a complicated story because I think most people recognize, I don't know how everybody does, but I think most people recognize that when healthy, Andersen is, for the most part, really good. When healthy. That's the thing. It's when healthy. Every goaltender goes through a rough stretch. Freddie, at the end of the season, it wasn't great the last 3 or 4 starts. But Andersen went through about an 8 or a 9 start stretch where he was amazing. It started, actually, if you go back and you look, it started with a home loss to Edmonton. And then his next 8 starts, he was incredibly good. But if you go back and you look at Andersen in the playoffs, and you really do kind of dig into it, he's been excellent as a playoff goaltender. I know what Toronto has hung on Andersen as though that wasn't really about Toronto as opposed to Freddie. When healthy, he is easily a top 10 goaltender in the NHL. When healthy, he's the guy that can take you really far. We always run the risk of wearing Freddie out. We always do. And we're running the risk now. I'm telling you, the head coach understands at any moment Freddie could need a day off or 2 or 3. We're going to have an extra day between games 4 and 5. Freddie's going to play Monday. Freddie's going to play Thursday. Rod Brindamore would like nothing better than to win at home on Monday and then have Freddie for Thursday. But I wouldn't be shocked if Carolina has a 3-1 lead if he went to Kochetkov in Washington. I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't think he will. I think this is a Frederik Andersen experience until he can't go. I do. As much as I thought at the beginning of the playoffs that Rod and I were thinking about it the same way, we know we can't beat the brakes off Andersen because he'll wear out or he'll get hurt. And I kind of feel like it doesn't really matter. Freddie is going to play. He's been too good. He's the reason Washington didn't have a goal in the first period. Really, in the first 30 minutes of the game. That was the best of Freddie Andersen. So when we talked about it this morning, and I said, yeah, it's complicated. Everybody recognizes that Freddie can't be, a 55 to 60 start a year guy. So they got to have another goalie, probably 2, because Andersen's going to miss about half the year with whatever injury. And the Hurricanes are like, they looked at the free agent market. They looked at who was available via trade, and there wasn't anybody available who could masquerade as a number 1 goalie. I know a lot of you love John Gibson, whatever, maybe. And the Hurricanes are going to have plenty of money to throw around. But they looked at the landscape and went, Freddie's probably the best one. We already have him. He likes it here. He likes his teammates. We're more than well aware that he's probably going to miss half the season for whatever reason. Freddie Andersen, you want to stick around for another year? And it was an easy one for Freddie. He does like it here. Team plays well in front of him. And as long as he's healthy for the playoffs, man, not going to find anybody better. He was great tonight. A very deserving first star of the game. Very deserving first star. Now, a couple of numbers that caught my eye before we jump on out of here after a 4-0 win. By the way, did I mention the Martinook shot block on Pierre-Luc Dubois in the third period? Whew, what a block. Jalen Chatfield only played 14-23 tonight. Now, it might not have been his best game, but Chatfield only played one shift in about the last 15 minutes. So I do wonder if there is an injury. But Chatfield playing 14-23, this is like last year, Jalen Chatfield, middle of the season. Usually Chatfield is up in the 19 or so minute range. You know who led Carolina in time on ice among defensemen tonight? Sean Walker did. Walker played 22-42, a minute and a half more than Jacob Slavin and Dmitry Orlov. Those were the three that led Carolina in time on ice. What Walker was doing was taking a few extra shifts, not that many, but a few extra shifts. He killed some penalty time because who was in the box? Brent Burns, I believe, was in the box at one point. So he did some PK time. But he took some Chatfield shifts, took some Burns shifts. And I thought Walker was excellent. I didn't realize until right before we started this, when I looked at the event sheet, and I was looking at ice time. I'm like, holy cow, look how much Sean Walker played. But he was really good tonight. And I don't think Shane Gostisbehere has been at the top of his game. And Chatfield, for whatever reason, looked like he might have been struggling a little bit. But again, it must have been an injury because Rod doesn't bench players ever. He certainly doesn't bench Chatfield because he's been super reliable. So I'm going to guess there's some sort of an injury, but he only took one shift really in the last 15 minutes and played, I'll bet you 14-23 is a season low for Chatfield, barring an injury. And I assume this one is an injury. But something to keep an eye on. And I know what everybody's thinking. If Chatfield can't play, will Necas play? We'll see what happens if they practice tomorrow. I don't know if they're practicing tomorrow or not, but impressive stuff from Sean Walker tonight. Really impressive stuff from him. But, to be honest, Carolina had a lot of really good performances tonight. And there were a lot of guys who could have been stars. The job the Staal line did. By the way, has anybody seen Alexander Ovechkin? He has not really been a factor in this series at all. Ovechkin and Tom Wilson got hit a lot tonight. Ovechkin did have 4 shots on goal. But his lack of speed, not that he's ever been a blazer, but his lack of speed, to me, has been pretty noticeable. Wasn't a great game for Tom Wilson, but he did have 11 hits. Boy, did he line up Eric Robinson at one point. But Tom Wilson was a frustrated Tom Wilson. Brandon Duhaime. Oh, man. Duhaime. Yeah. The same Washington team, by the way, that was here at the beginning of April in the 142 penalty minute game. That same Washington team played the third period. All right, so something to keep an eye on as we look and see if Jalen Chatfield is in fact dealing with an injury or not. But solid play throughout. Frederik Andersen, spectacular. Andrei Svechnikov, as we hoped he would look. Special teams, dynamite, and the captain's line together. If I was going to guess, I'd say the way Carolina finished this game is the way they will start the next one. That's my guess. I don't think Rod will flip things back to where they were. I think he got to a place, and on home ice, you could do it. He got to a place where, all right, this is where I want to be. That's what I think is going to happen. And if Chatfield can't go, maybe it will be Alexander Nikishin. Of course, Chatfield's a righty. Could also be Scott Morrow. We'll see. It'll be fun to watch either way. All right, we're done. Canes win it 4-0. We head back to Game 4. We don't go to Washington yet. Back here, Game 4, Monday night. We'll do the Canes Corner podcast, available on YouTube, and it's always brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina, aluminumcompany.com. Everything for the exterior of your home. And until Monday, I am Adam Gold, and I appreciate you hanging out for this.
Now there's 7:29 left here in the second. The Canes have been aggressive in this game. Now Svechnikov comes in off the draw, and he scores off the face-off. Carolina strikes first. It's 1-0 Hurricanes.
See everybody.